everyone, and welcome back to IOSnap. Today we will finish our full run-through of the program. When we left off, we had set up our three separate regions. We had the nation, the state of West Virginia, and the Morgantown Metropolitan Statistical Area. Now, to run an analysis, we need a change in final demand vector. For this example, I have two different kinds. One is the drilling expenditures from the new fracking well in Morgantown, and the other is the worker expenditures from the workers who work at the drilling well. The real data sets required conversions from producer to purchaser prices. While that function will be implemented in IOSnap, there is a video that I posted earlier that shows how to use this do this using Excel. Once we calculate the final demand changes, we assemble them in a way that can be entered into IOSnap. Then we need to decide what type of impacts assessment we want to run. The impact analysis feature is located under the Analysis tab. The four different analyses that are available are Type 1 Industry, Type 1 Commodity, Type 2 Industry, and Type 2 Commodity. Type 1 multipliers account for the direct and indirect impacts based on how goods and services are supplied within a region, while Type 2 multipliers not only account for these direct and indirect impacts, but also account for income-induced impacts based on the purchases made by households from new household income. Finally, you can select whether or not you want to drive the analysis by industry or commodity. An industry-driven analysis is more useful for industry-level changes. For example, this would be appropriate for determining the impact of a particular plant closing or opening. On the other hand, a commodity-driven analysis casts a slightly wider net. It would be useful for when you are measuring impacts associated with something like tourism in an area, or an increase in the population due to migration, or temporary employment like a fracking well in our case. For the purposes of this video, we will use Type 2 commodity. We have three separate regions and two different final demand vectors to run for a total of 6 separate results that we could obtain. A national analysis would use the base 2012. A state analysis would use West Virginia. I will demonstrate the full range of options down to the sub-state level by using the Morgantown Metropolitan Statistical Area. So once we select our region, we can click the Analysis tab and open up the Type 2 commodity-driven impacts. So here we have our change in final demand vector that we need to paste in. I'll do it once for drilling and then once again for workers. So first let's do the drilling. Copy these, paste them in, select the Analyze button, and these are the results of that. So we can see we get our different categories of impacts. We have our change in final demand, commodity output impacts, industry output impacts, employment compensation, tax impacts, gross operating surplus impacts, and total value added impacts. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can get the sum of all of those different sort of impacts, and this is for the Morgantown Metropolitan Statistical Area. So that is for drilling. Let's go back then, open up impacts again, and now let's paste in our workers' expenditures. Copy that, go back to our entry sheet, paste those values in, and then select Analyze. And that'll change our Type 2 commodity-driven impacts results. So here you can see the results again. Scroll down to the bottom to get the summary of all of the different sort of impacts we can obtain. And that is for the workers' results. Now, in the future, there may be more reporting features, such as pie and bar charts, etc. And I might do a video on that, but in our next video, we will discuss how to implement some basic regional economic methods into IOSnap.